in the UK, we're driving this onslaught of forest destruction. We're driving it from the government. We're providing renewable obligation certificates to companies that will provide renewable energy, admittedly from ways that would be renewable like solar and wind, but the vast majority, over 90%, will actually come from liquid biofuels and biomass, basically wood chips and wood pellets. So we want to raise the awareness to everybody here and to get this message as far out as possible that there's nothing green, there's nothing environmentally sound about this particular approach. Of course, I've already mentioned that forests are destroyed. Along with it, biodiversity is impacted on. We've already got 20% of terrestrial animal biodiversity that's already on the brink of extinction. And there are other situations as well. Indigenous peoples are forced out of their forest homes whenever forests are cut down. This is a serious human rights problem. Where forests aren't taken, you've got land that would otherwise be used for food production. So of course local people go hungry. And already we have over 1 billion people on the planet going hungry. So this is a human rights problem as well. On top of that, we've got other issues in the pipeline. Burning biomass produces 1.5 times the CO2 as burning coal for the equivalent energy produced. So it's incredibly polluted. There's nothing environmentally sound about this. To take it one stage further, we could add on to that the fact that in local areas we've got an issue with particulate emissions and nitrogen dioxide emissions, which are impacting on the health and life expectancy of local people. So when you put all those four things together, you've got a situation where society at large is about to wake up to a new horror story on the environment, but this one created by a government that's supposedly trying to protect us against climate change. And there's not as if there's not enough evidence there. A number of very senior bodies have come forward and explained in clear detail exactly what's going wrong. The government's own Committee on Climate Change has said that the drive for biomass seriously jeopardizes our capacity to meet climate change mitigation targets by 2030. We've got the European Environment Agency really concerned about the particulate emissions and the impacts on health of people in the UK. Many cities in the UK already breach EU regulations on nitrogen dioxide and particulate emissions. And then we've got the Environmental Audit Committee that's coming up on a number of issues, but also raising the flag on biodiversity loss and natural loss of forests, which are then turned into monocultures. So this really is a disaster in the making. And what's going on here is the kind of bilateral agreements that will allow companies in different parts of the world to guarantee supplies, and thereby we are part of the process of deforestation, which will ultimately lead to longer-term acceleration of climate change. So, just in wrapping up now here, I think we need to recognise that around the UK, this isn't something that's happening accidentally. The government has been communicated on this. DEC has been consulted through a number of papers, and in the recent consultation process, numerous NGOs, environmental organisations, including Friends of the Earth, Biofuelwatch and many others, have raised the alarm on this. Campaigning against climate change has also been driving the concern on this one. And what we need to get through to the government is that not only is this to be recognised as being something that's deleterious, but we also know that the government knows, and we know that because of the locations in which people are getting planning permissions for these power stations. They're not happening inland, with the occasional exception of coal-fired power stations being converted to bioenergy power stations. They're happening all around the British coasts. Now that wouldn't be happening if we were going to supply that wood ourselves, and we can't possibly supply that ourselves because we only produce 20% of our own wood, paper, pulp and wood products anyway. The remaining 80% comes from abroad, and the new onslaught of demand will multiply our current demand 6-fold. So there's no question that any of this can be produced or can be drawn from the UK, and the government knows this full well. So you can see from the way in which the planning applications are meting out, and you can see in which the way in which the subsidies are going forward, you can start to see this as an orchestrated plan. So my request to all of you here is to go onto the Biofuelwatch website and sign the petition raising awareness of this and to help us to stop individual power stations. And my last word to people in the conference, if anybody's listening here, especially those venture capitalists who are thinking of putting large amounts of money for a quick return on bioenergy, is just to know that we will fight you on this. You will not be successful, and we will find a way in which we will reduce the profits so it is valuable for you to go for solar and wind, the only sensible, true renewable approaches for producing energy into the future that can actually be environmentally friendly. Thank you.